If Michael's feeling was that he was ugly, there's no reason to stop him, once he's got his fortune made, to having plastic surgery. It may also explain this strange manifestation of being seen in public wearing a mask.
Michael could be a shrewd political operator. He famously joined the crusade led by the Reverend Al Sharpton and made some very outspoken comments concerning attitudes towards black artists in the music industry.
And we want the artists to be free. We don't want the companies bigger than the artists. We want the people respected and the stars that we make stars to shine in the galaxy for us. We were already off the wall, and we coming off our seats to stand up for justice in the music industry.
He ignited a very public campaign which targeted Sony Records.
This is very important because throughout the years, black artists have been taken advantage of completely. And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible, incredible injustice. And like Mrs. Sharpton was saying, people from James Brown to Sammy Davis Jr., some of the real pioneers that inspired me to be the entertainer that I am. These artists are always on tour because if they stopped touring, they would totally go broken. And it's been, the record companies really, really do conspire against their artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists.
He was very outspoken, and he criticised Tommy Mottola, the head of Sony, on very, very personal grounds, and accused Tommy of being a racist, which I'm sure Tommy isn't. But Michael felt so strongly on that issue that he had to come out and make that statement.
Sony, Tommy Mottola. Tommy Mottola is the president of the record division. He is a mean, he's a racist, and he's very, very, very devilish.
Now, there was a lot of bad blood between Michael and Sony, and Michael certainly milked his position for all it was worth, helped by Al Sharpton. And what it actually resulted in were members of the public beginning this curious boycott of Sony.
Sony sucks! 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 Sony sucks!
Acts into this way, and whoever else, artists that are on their label that are being
Sucks! Sony sucks! Sony sucks! I want to hear the guys in the back.
We feel it's an amazing album, and we feel that Sony has deliberately sabotaged the record, and we're here to make our point, and we're going to boycott anything that has to do with Sony. We're not going to go to Sony movies, we're not going to buy Sony music, we're not going to buy Sony hardware, Sony DVDs, and that's what we're going to do, and that's why we're here.
So it shows you some of the power that Michael Jackson actually wielded, and the fact that he could be a very effective political campaigner if he chose to do so.
During the course of the 90s, Michael's skin grew noticeably paler, and eventually he was diagnosed as suffering from vitiligo and lupus, which fortunately was found to be in remission. These illnesses conspired to make Michael very sensitive to sunlight, and as a result, he took to wearing a hat and carrying an umbrella. We can see the trademark umbrella in Trilby in the historic meeting between Michael and Nelson.
I think for him, he genuinely could relate to Nelson Mandela and the problem with racism.
When he goes to South Africa, Nelson Mandela himself takes the time to address the press and to describe his admiration for Michael Jackson.
What I think he was able to do quite well is take himself out of a situation, and he didn't associate himself almost with being in a group. He could almost isolate himself pretty much and put himself in a box and see the world from a different perspective and himself from another one.
And I'm very happy indeed to be able to host him, even for just a few minutes. And he has made a great contribution to art, to music. And I'm very happy that he is in our country.
It is my pleasure. It is my honor to be here in South Africa. I love you people very much. I've had the time of my life here. I've had so much fun. I hate to leave. And I'm definitely looking for a home here to buy, because I would love to spend the rest of my life here.
Sometimes when people feel dissatisfied with something in their lives, they want to run from it. And avoidance is a huge strategy of coping for many people. So if there is something happening in someone's lives where they feel, actually, I'm not very comfortable here, I don't feel at home here, shall we say, then it may be that they want to avoid that place and want to run away from it, I guess.
And we are definitely coming in January. And this is a wonderful, lovely man, and I love Nelson Mandela very much. And thank you for all your hospitality and all your love. Thank you very much.
You want your
Running.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay then.
Mr. Jackson, do you know where you would like to buy a house?
Have you thought of composing a song about our president?
Yes, very much. I'm working on it now.
When?
I was working on it last night.
He would have disputed that he tried to change his colour, as we know. I think that was all built into the whole, like with the plastic surgery, he just wanted to change himself. Now, whether that meant putting up a mask or changing the form of his face, there's very little in between. Changing his colour was more about changing who he was, I think, than actually deliberately changing his race. It's more about making himself look very different.
I think you'd have to be a very, very cynical person indeed not to believe that Michael was involved in charity for the best possible motive. He genuinely wanted to help and felt he had a duty to help.
When he went out to Russia, the state honored him for the work he did for charity. He continued to do this work at a time when he was not always in the best shape himself.
From the media reports and from what I have seen of Michael Jackson, I would say that he comes across as a